Welcome back. So in this tutorial we're going to be going through how you can create a HUD like this, where you have a health bar which you can then easily and very cleanly and performantly update something like your health, for example. Now this health bar here is connected to my HUD, it's my user interface for me as a player, but we also have over here a AI character which has a health bar which is decreasing just like mine is now, because we're both standing inside of a pain volume which is causing damage to us, and our widget is updating as this is happening. So this is what we will be checking out and creating today. So follow along. Alright, so let's create a flexible and performant health bar and make use for it for both our player character and also for enemy AIs in different ways. So starting off, this is Unreal Engine version 5.3. This will work in any Unreal Engine version, there's no difference between them, unless they change something very drastically in the future, of course. In addition to that, we're using the third-person character template as our base, just so we have something to play around with. And yeah, let's get started. So the first thing we do is we go to third person and blueprints and open up our third person character. This will be our base for what we do things inside of. Inside of here, we want to add the ability to have some health displayed. So we will be making a very simple system, something that represents a probably more complex system for health. So we'll do that by creating a variable called current health. So this will be our health at any current point in time. We'll change the type to float. In addition to that, we'll add another variable, we call that max health. The reason why we're adding another variable called max health is we need to have a reference point for our current health so that we can calculate what our percentage actually is at any point in time. So now we have variables to store these values. We can actually start with giving some the default values. So we'll give the current health something like 90 and max health something like 100, just so that we see that it has some health but not all the health, so that it's easy to see that there's some distinction there. To make these variables easier to use and work with, we're going to create a function. We're going to call this function get current health percentage, and all that is going to do is we're going to take our current health and we're going to take our max health and we're going to divide our current health with our max health, and that way we get the percentage that we currently have of our health. So returning the value here will be the value that we will be operating with later on. We'll name this something like health percentage. That's fine. We'll also make the function pure by checking the checkbox and compiling, because we're not writing anything here, we're just reading values, so that's good. So in our event graph now, we can find some empty spot, and we want to make use of our values now to display for the character. We currently do not have any such means, so first off we want to go to our content folder and create a new folder, call this UI, open that up, and we'll create a user interface widget blueprint of user widget type. We'll call it w_health bar. So this will be the widget that represents our health. So this one will be keeping very simple. We'll add the component called progress bar. A progress bar is just a bar that shows a value using the percent value here. So you can see that it's more filled the closer it is to 1, and less filled and completely empty at the 0 value. So this is what represents our health in this case. Inside of this graph, we're just going to be removing the pre-construct and the tick event for now, because that's all that we need to do. We will be coming back to this in a little moment. For now, we want to go to our content folder again and create another user interface widget blueprint. And this one we will call w_HUD. This will be the representation of our complete user interface as a player, and the health bar will be a small portion of that. So opening up the HUD, we'll add something called a canvas panel. A canvas panel is a panel that allows us to have different widgets oriented in our user interface in different parts, so that they're easy to place out essentially. Having just one canvas panel in our HUD is fine. You probably don't want to stack multiple canvas panels or have them in multiple widgets for performance reasons. So one canvas panel is fine here. Then we go to user created, we scroll down and find our health bar. We drag it out, we can place it somewhere, make it of a certain size that we're happy with. Maybe even anchor it to the middle of the top screen, something like that, so it keeps that position. And that's it. So now we have a visual representation, but we won't see it in the game yet. So we go back to our third person character and make sure that we can show this. We'll create a custom event somewhere here where we have some space. We can call this setup UI. Nice and clear name. We right click and create a widget. And we hook it up and we say that the type that we want to create is our HUD, because in our HUD we have put in our health bar, so it will come with it. We'll then make sure that it's added to our viewport so we can actually see this health bar, like so. But currently we're not calling this anywhere, so we'll make sure to do that by going up to our begin play here, and in the end here we can just say we want to call our setup UI function, like so. So already now we should be able to test this out by clicking play, and we can see that we have our health bar here. So that's fine, everything is working so far. That's good. Okay. So now we want to make sure that this health bar is actually changing, and we'll do that by creating something called a any damage event here. So we have this one here called event any damage. This one happens whenever we take some form of damage. So we'll do the following. We'll take our current health, drag it out, and we'll say that this value is supposed to be subtracted with whatever damage value comes in here. And after that we say that our new current health is going to be this value we now have calculated. So this is how we were going to take damage. Very, very simple. So to demonstrate that this is working, we're going to be clicking this little closed eye over here on current health, like so, and then we're going to be going to our map, and then we're going to be going over here to quickly add to project, and we're going to type in pain. Pain allows us to find a pain causing volume, which is a volume we can drag out into the world, and pressing R you can scale this one. So we'll scale this one a little bit so it's a bit larger. Hopefully you see the yellow edges here, so they're encapsulating the starting location here now for our character. So if we press play now, our character is inside of this pain volume. It is getting pained. It's causing damage, and by default it's set to doing something like 1 damage per second, and we have 90 health, so 1.5 minutes should be all that we can do without dying, essentially. Going into our outliner now, we can find our third person character, and we can click on details, and we can see that our health is somewhere, we can see here, 62, 61, it's slowly ticking down, so we can see that the health is actually being affected, and that is because of our damage event that's running over here. But our visual representation here is not doing anything. So now we need to have our visual representation actually reflect what kind of health we have. Going into our health bar, we can, if we wanted to, and this is where usually people go astray, you can say that we want to make sure that this percentage value that we talked about earlier is supposed to be reflected by the health that we have. And some people go and say, let's go click bind and create binding, and inside of here we can see that, okay, you can get a percent value, and this percent value is what is actually going to be driving this this health bar. So if we in this case go and say that, well, we want to take our character, so we get our owning character, we can take a player pawn, for example. We have our character over here, we could cast this to our third person character. By doing so we get access to our variables inside of it. So inside of here we have, for example, get current health, we can see over here, or we could just immediately go for our get current health percentage function that we created, and then we can go and say, well, okay, now we can calculate what our health is. So doing this, we can now see that our health up here is actually updating as we are taking damage now. So what's wrong with this? Well, to demonstrate this, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going into our health bar and we're going to be saying inside of here we're going to call something called random color, print random color. This is the method I have in my helper class. We're going to say damage, no, we're going to type in health updated, like so. Compile, save, and then we run. And now you can see here we're getting all of these messages, and each of these messages is representing of us updating the health bar once. Now you can see that the health bar is actually reduced once every second, but that is not how many messages we're actually getting here. We're getting as many messages here as we are getting ticks, which is related to your frames per second. In this case, the game is running at 60 frames per second, so we're getting 60 updates, even though we're only updating our health once every second. So this is, of course, highly unoptimized and unnecessary, essentially. So what we're going to be doing is we're not going to be making use of this ability or this functionality. So we're going to go back to our designer and we're going to be saying that we don't want to have this. We remove the binding like so. Compile, save, go back to our graph. The get percent function is still here. We'll make sure to remove that. We don't want that. So instead, how are we gonna get this information? Well, we're gonna go and create something called an event dispatcher. So in the third person character, we're gonna create an event dispatcher down here. We're gonna call this one health updated. This is essentially like subscribing to a YouTube channel, which of course, if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel down there. And everybody who is subscribed gets this message. So inside of this health dispatcher or event dispatcher, we can add a input and say that we want to inform whoever is interested that this is our new current health percentage. So at the point when we're taking damage, for example, is a good point to check when or update our health. So we'll say that we want to update our health at that point. And we'll make sure to hook up our function, our get health percentage function into it as well, so we have that value set. Now, what we're doing here currently is a little bit. We can make this a little bit cleaner. We can make a let's make a custom event. We call this update health. And we'll just remove this here and put this over here. And the reason why I think this is a little bit cleaner is when we call update health here now, we don't show that we need to know about any kind of values, we're just calling it over here. And when we're setting up our UI, we need to make sure that it's actually updating as well once, because when the UI is created, it's gonna be getting the value of whatever we have set here as the default. And we don't want that to be our first value when we come in, because it might be inaccurate. So we will be making sure to calling our update health here as well. Now, at this point in time, we're going to be sending out these messages and we're going to be losing our health. But our health bar, as you can see here, is starting at the wrong health and it is not actually updating. Why is that happening? Well, it is because our health bar currently is not subscribed to this event. And that's what we need to add now. So going into our content browser again, we can keep it here actually. We'll right click and we'll create a blueprint, and we'll create a blueprint interface, and we can call this BPI set UI owner or something like that. Inside of this blueprint interface, we can create functions that we make use of, and these are sort of like promises that anything that implements this will have these functions available, and they may be implemented or not, but they are at least present. So here we can say we want to set UI owner, and we can take as an in parameter here that we want to have a, let's take a third person character. So whoever is, we can call this also the UI owner. So in this case, we're saying that whoever is being sent in here into this function is going to be whoever owns this UI. Okay, so in the case of our third person character over here, we want to tell our interface, or we want to tell our widget that we own this interface. Not interface, this is UI. Now, in the health bar here, we could just go here and say something like get owning player pawn, and from here we could do something like cast to third person character, because the person who owns this UI is going to be this person, this player that we are, and from here we have the ability to then bind to our health updated event dispatcher, and that way we are subscribed to it, and then we can create an event that says this is what we should be executing when this event happens. So in this case we can say that health has been updated. What do we do in this case? Let's see if I can spell a little bit better, like so. And in this case we can say that, let's say we want to print. Not print a random color. Let's just say we want to print a string that says hello. So in this case, if we just run this now, you can see here we get hello over here, because this is, and you might not notice it, but every 1 second we're adding a hello, and then one old message is being phased out. So we are actually having our health bar here bound to the or subscribed to the event dispatcher now, and it's actually getting information from it. So at this point we can actually say we want our progress bar to have its set percent to be the value that we're getting here from the event dispatcher, because we are providing the actual health here. So in this case we would actually be getting our health updated now at this point for the player, which is fine. And we can leave it at this for now, but this is going to be a problem, and we can start working on showing that by creating our AI character now that we're going to be making use of, that also will be having a health bar. So let's go to our third person character and create a child of the third person character, and we'll say that we'll make a child, call it BP AI character. The reason I'm making a child now is to inherit some of the functionality that we have here, so that we don't we can reuse some things if we wanted to, which is nice. And that's mainly the whole point here. We could make it separate, completely separate ones, and have some duplication and stuff like that if we wanted to. It's up to you. It's not really the point though. But inside of our AI character, we now want to do similar things here. But in our AI character, an AI doesn't have a user interface. It's not a human. It doesn't have something representing itself in front of its screen, because it doesn't have a screen. But you may want to have a representation of health for an AI character or an enemy or a friend or whatever, and you still want to display it in accordance or in relation to this character. And one way to do that is by adding a component that is of the type widget. So a widget here we can say, if we just click it like this, we might want to actually drag it under our mesh, so it's actually parented to the mesh. This will represent its position right now, so if we drag it above our head, which is usually where you have health bars, we can go to the details of our widget component and say we want to have the widget class of health bar, and bam, there it is. You can also alter some of the dimensions to how you want it to look. Maybe you want to have a width of 20, maybe you want to have a size of 200 in width or something. Sorry, this was not width, this was height, this is width. So here you can have the dimensions of whatever you want to have. And you have the options of making it world, which allows you to see it like this. You can also have it as screen space, which won't show it here, but would make it so that if you had a character in the world here, like so, he would have a health bar above of his head, and it would be shown regardless of where you were looking. There are some pros and cons with each of these, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. But for now, let's go back to our AI character and put this back in world space for now. So now we have our health bar here, And we want to have this updated in accordance to the health of the AI character now. So to do this, we can't make use of the functionality that we have in here, because owning player pawn, first of all, the AI is not a player, it is an AI. That's a different concept. There are two different things. You have a controller that's called a player controller, which is handled by a human player, and then you have an AI controller, which is handled by an AI player. So the concept here is that it can't actually get this value, it would get something erroneous. So we can't have this functionality inside of our health bar, because our health bar is being used as both our by our HUD over here and by our widget component in the AI character. We're using the same thing, so it won't work. So we'll need to change this now. How we'll do that is by making use of this interface that we created. So inside of here we send in who is the UI owner. So in our health bar, let's make some changes. We'll go in here and say class settings. We want to add a interface, and we want to add the BPI set UI owner, compile, and then we right click on that and say implement event. So now we're getting an event that says, like, at some point someone is saying, hey, this is your UI owner. Okay, great. Let's actually take all of this code and just drag it down here and say, okay, well, this is gonna be my owner. So instead of the player pawn over here, it's going to be this character that we just got sent in, and then everything like this should hopefully still work. Now if we were to play here, this will not work for our character because we're not actually informing our widget about this information yet. So we'll go to our third person character. At the point when we're setting up our UI here, we get our HUD. Our HUD knows of our health bar, so here we could say something like health bar. So we get the widget for health bar, and inside of here we can then say that, well, okay, at this point, the reason we're moving this is because we want to make sure that we're subscribed, which we can only do if we know about who is the owner. So we set UI owner and the message, like so. And after that we want to try and update the health, otherwise this will be in the wrong order. The UI order owner in this case is a third person character, and we're inside a third person character. So we'll just have a reference to ourselves and say that we are the owner of this interface, or this UI, sorry. And now you can see that our bar is back to working here for our character, and it works fine. So now we have the basics ready for actually building upon this. The health bar is ready to make use of this. But in our AI character, we're not actually informing about this yet. So we need to make sure that we do that. So inside of here we have our begin play, which is fine. And our begin play will look like our parent's begin play, which means that we will be going through all of this information. We cast a player controller, enhanced input, blah blah blah, all of this stuff. Since we have in our AI character an AI controller, this will fail, none of this will run, and nothing here will happen essentially. So what we can do here is either remove this, or after this say that we want to call setup UI, because we want to set up UI for this character as well, even though the UI is completely different. Now again, we had set up UI over here in the end, but since we're going to be aborting this if we have an AI controller, that doesn't work. So we set it as an extra call here in the AI explicitly, just to make it clear. We remove the begin overlap and the tick, we don't need those. Now inside of here we have our setup UI available, but if we were to call it and call our parent setup UI, we would be getting this information. We would be trying to create our HUD, add it to viewport, etc, etc. This doesn't work for an AI since it doesn't have a screen like we talked about earlier. So what we want to do is we want to call setup UI, setup UI. So the event here, setup UI, we're just going to be overloading by doing this. So we're not calling the parent here or anything like that. We're just going to be taking this one, so it will not be running the code that is being run over here, and instead here we will run our own code. In this case, we have our widget over here. From that we can say that we want to get our user widget. This means that we will be getting our health bar, although it will be of the type just widget object reference. It doesn't know that it's a health bar, so we can't actually go and say something like get progress bar or anything like that. It doesn't know about it, but we don't really need to, because we created an interface. We can just say that we want to set UI owner and message and say that the owner for this should be ourselves, which is this AI character, which is deriving from the third person character. So after that we want to call update health, which is a function that we have from our parent again, our third person character, and our update health just says call the health updated with the current health percentage. So with this done, we are almost set up. Now we could just place a character in the world here, like so, and then we could see that, among other things, we can see that the health bar is not being shown unless you're watching it from the front, so it's something that we will be addressing in a little bit, but for now we're gonna be putting it like so instead. Now if we were to play test from here, we can see, we get jumped in, we can see our health bar here, it's being decreased. We can see the health bar over there on the other character. It starts at 90, just like we set to default values, but it's not getting its life diminished. It doesn't mean that it's not working, however. If we exit here, we can see that the bounds in my case here might not be for you, but they're not actually encapsulating this character. So if we move this over the enemy character, press play, we can see that our health bar is not being diminished, but the health bar of the enemy there is now actually updating and showing that for us. So now we're actually having the same system, which is that the health bar here is, again, this is coming in as a third person character, so we don't even need to cast this anymore. We can remove it like so. So this is the movie that we assigned over here. Now it completed very quickly. So our widget is essentially getting a call at some point saying that this is the person who owns the UI. Make sure that you listen to its information that it wants to relay about the health being changed. And then we have in our third person character, just when we set up our UI, that we say to our HUD's health bar that we are the health owner, and then we run the health updates. And the AI character, when it runs, it says setup UI, and the setup UI calls the setup UI owner, so that it knows who this UI belongs to, so that it can update its health when this character's health is actually changed. So that's really all you need to get this to work. And as an extra, we can also go and see here when we update our health, over here, we can say that we want to call our random colors, yay, and we say health updated. And then we play, and we can see that that is how often it is actually updating the health now, which is only the times when it actually needs updating, when it's actually being changed, not on every single tick, which is completely unnecessary and not very useful. So yeah, this is how you easily create a very flexible and performant system for this kind of thing. But in addition to this, we may want to have this widget be also a little bit more flexible for us. We might want to have it actually show towards the camera. So let's fix that. So to fix our health bar, we're going to go into BP AI character. We're going to click on our widget component, and inside of that we can see that we have a materials here. If we click on the magnifying glass, we'll go to that part in the browser. Double clicking on that, we can see that it has a parent material, so we can click on that to get to the parent material. If we open that up, we get to its parent material by clicking on the magnifying glass, and then we double click there, and now we have reached the end of the chain. So this is the material that all of these that is used as default for the widget components. So we'll close down these two other materials, and this one that we actually found that is the parent, we're gonna make a duplicate out of. And the duplicate, we're gonna be keeping the name, and we're just gonna be moving it to our UI folder. Click move here, then we'll close down that. Inside our UI folder now we can open up this material, and inside here we can make some changes. We're just going to be doing minor alterations that will allow us to have the health bar always show towards the camera. To do that, we're going to be right clicking and then taking something called align mesh to camera. So this material function, we will be hooking up the world position offset to the world position offset over there. And then we need to have some values over here. So we're going to be holding down the 3 key and left click 3 times to get 3 different vectors. We're going to be giving these values. The first one we're going to give -1 in Z. The second one we're going to give -1 in X. And the third one we're going to give 1 in Y. And then we're going to be doing the following. We're going to drag them off like so. We're going to drag off from one of these. We type in transform, press enter. This transform vector we copy to the other ones as well. I should have, before I did that, actually let's remove these and go to this one first. We want to say that we want to translate from instance and particle space, which is local space, to world space. And then we copy 2 more of those. And I'll be leaving the link in the description for explanations behind how you can use these kind of things, like the line mesh to camera. Now that we have this, we can apply and we're done here, and we can say that in our AI character, we want to make use of this material that we have just altered, put it over there, and go into our third person map, and we can see that if we move around now with our camera, we have a material that is moving around towards us, and it can also be obscured by different things in the world because it is using a world position, so you can have something obscuring it if you want to as well. So yeah, that's how you do that. A big thank you to all of you who like, comment, subscribe and share my videos, or through other means support this channel. You are what makes this channel grow and become a resource for other people to learn from.